Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the RTP NSBE General Body meeting tonight. I'm Dr. Tony Arnold McFarland. I'll be hosting tonight. And what we're going to focus on for the May General Body meeting is what's in your heart drives your strategy. And our guest speaker tonight is none other than Miss Wendy Coleman Blue. I'm excited to be able to introduce her. But before we do that, we have a couple other slides coming up. And how you can go ahead and advance. We always want to ground ourselves with who we are and why we are here. I will let you read the vision as I read it out. The next professionals inspire the next generation of technical professionals and serve as a catalyst for transforming the culture of engineering. And our mission, the National Society of Black Engineers mission is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. All right, next slide is my favorite part. Our keynote speaker tonight is none other than Miss Wendy Coleman Blue. I have a bio. I could actually speak about her without it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do as she has informed me to do. And she'd probably be okay if I spoke without it, but I will just kind of look at some of her highlights. I would say this, Wendy is multi-talented. I wasn't sure which hats she would show up with tonight, but she is at the intersection of strategy, service, and human potential. And I've worked with her in all these capacities. She's very, very inquisitive and insightful. She provides inquisitive and insightful transformational. She's a strategist, I would say, as an inquisitive, insightful, transformational strategist. She has built a career devoted to maximizing impact, not just organizationally, but for the individuals who lives her work, who lives where her work touches. She is a proud first generational college graduate from my home state, the South Carolina state in the United States. Wendy earned her BS in electrical engineering from Clemson University. Sorry, Wendy, that you had to do that. No, I'm just playing. But she went to Clemson University. She's very proud. She has her graduate engineering graduate ring, and she completed graduate work in integrated manufacturing systems engineering at North Carolina State University. This is where we connected when she became a part of the Wolfpack. The STEM Foundation has proven both rare and powerful across a career that has spanned K through 12 education, higher education, technology, and the environmental and energy management sector, giving her the technical fluency and system thinking to drive change at every level. Now, I'm going to go off script a little bit. Wendy is also an advisor for RTP Nesbitt Jr. So she has the insight to help people plan a trajectory. She has this blueprint in her head, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to some point this year be able to dump that out. We've actually mobilized it without even having it written down, but I'm hoping she can write that out. Wendy currently serves as service sales development and onboarding training specialist at Schneider Electric here in the RTP area, where she designs and leads initiatives that develop talent, support new team members through onboarding, and accelerate professional growth. Prior to this role, she served as a career and placement coach for the engineering and technology pathway at Thrive Scholars, which I connected with her. She introduced that to me as well. A college access nonprofit connecting high achieving students from historically underrepresented backgrounds to opportunities that expanded their horizons and reshaped their trajectories. And known as a committed relationship builder and connector, Wendy leverages the social capital with intention, cultivating access and opportunity, and clearing space for the people she is honored to serve to transform their lives into whatever they envision for themselves. Her work is especially focused on helping emerging technical talent navigate growth, belonging, and career possibility in evolving industries. As I said, she's a South Carolina native. She lives and thrives in Raleigh. She's a proud mother of adult twin daughters. And she's also a member of a lot of other organizations, including RTP NSBE, including Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated, and maybe some that I have not mentioned. So without any further ado, I bring to you Miss Wendy Coleman Blue. Let's give her a round of applause as we switch over to slideshow and she can she can take over the slides and take it from here.
All right, let's see if this is going to work for me this time. You know, it wanted to give me struggles
All
earlier.
right. And as you bring that up, I see the love coming on the screen, and feel free to put questions in the chat. It's going to be interactive, so you might as well go ahead and get ready to be engaged.
So, as Tony has said, it will be interactive. I do not enjoy a session where somebody comes and talks at you for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. I like to engage individuals in whatever it is that I do because I know the value is in your ability to collaborate and think. And quite often, our ideas are spurred by hearing other people's thoughts, and it allows us to feel safer in being able to um, share some of our own things with less reservation. So know that there are about 4 spaces in this presentation in which I will ask you to engage. But for the time being, let's get started. I am here to talk to you about your career strategy, but not so much the career strategy, more the underpinnings of where it comes from. Many of us are focused on the things that we can do, what we want, but all of that really centers in your heart. All of the things that you want really start from what your heart desires. So that's why tonight's career strategy session is entitled what it is. So as you can see, my tagline is the heart leads and the strategy follows. All right, let's see if I can. All right, there we go. Um, with that being said, here is our first interactive piece. I'm going to give you about 90 seconds. And I want you to think about a time you talked yourself out of an opportunity before anyone else had the chance to do so. Again, I'm going to give you about 90 seconds to do that. And before I ask anybody to volunteer and share, I will share my own after you've had your 90 seconds. It's amazing how long 90 seconds seems when you actually just got to wait for people to do a thing.
Wendy, did you just want to take like cases, or
Say again.
was it like a pause, a 90-second pause, or
Yeah, I was giving everybody
what's?
90 seconds to think about what their time is and be prepared to share.
Ah, okay. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, that was what the pause was for. It wasn't just because I had nothing to say. I always got something to say. Give y'all about 15
But
seconds
it's
more.
always good. It's always good.
There'll be people that would challenge you on that, but I'll take it.
No, I'm on your side.
It's always nice to have somebody on your side. All right. With that having been said, I will share mine first. And mine is a little different because it wasn't so much that I got talked out of a thing, it because I decided to go ahead and do it. But I had the opportunity, a role came open at Snyder. That's a perfect fit for me, who I am, what I value, what feeds my soul and heart. And I was meeting with someone, and in that meeting, that person shared with me that they had been encouraged to apply for the role as well. Now, I initially thought the person was not going to apply for the role before they told me this because they had just taken a role about 6 months earlier, maybe 5 months earlier. And so because they were in a new position, it's like, oh, you know what? I don't have to worry about so and so because, she just got a new role. But then when I was meeting with her to get some information about the space, she said, let me give you full disclosure. Some people have asked me, I don't know if I'm going to apply yet or not. However, I said, well, shoot, you work in the space. They, you're younger, so they're going to see you as much more pliable and probably easier to get along with than they will find me. So I don't know if I am going to apply for the role or not. I said I'm gonna have to think about and then reach out to the manager, of which who I had just had a coffee chat with probably a couple of days before the role came out. And it was probably about a week after this that I was having this conversation. So the person that almost talked me out of it was myself, based on some preconceived notions that I had about the space. But then I had to remember what God has for you is for you. And so if it's intended for me to get this opportunity, then I will. Do I have the skills and can I demonstrate those skills? I absolutely can. So, with that being said, who else wants to share a time where they actually may have been talked out of an opportunity, or talk themselves out of an opportunity before they had a chance to even give it a try? I will ask for volunteers, but then Tony can see the chat, so I will ask her to volunteer somebody if nobody volunteers.
Okay, I
Hey,
am
Wendy,
checking the chat. Go ahead, Dr. Ken.
I have one. I was a junior faculty member at A&T, and I had just put in my tenure packet, and I was waiting, and I get this weird letter from a university I knew very well, and they were like, "You need to apply for dean." I'm like, "Huh? I'm an assistant professor. I'm not even tenured yet officially." But I respected the university, had family go there. Went down there, made a lot of mistakes, got a lot of pushback because at that time I was 27 and I was applying for dean. So I did the interview, made a lot of mistakes, which, like telling everybody, oh, yeah, I'm applying for this at this university, and then going on the interview and saying things that were not in an administrative way. When you go management, the young people and administration, you can't really say what you're thinking. Even if people are like rude and nasty and derogatory towards you, you can't say what you're really thinking. I did more than that. Somehow the good Lord blessed to give me a contract, not for that job, but an assistant to that job. And I talked to people and they were like, oh, you better get tenure with this job, or you better get this in writing. And, and the school would not do it. I went to the provost, who she moved on and became president somewhere else. But I basically wrote a letter and turned it down because I was like, man, this is a big jump from assistant professor to assistant dean. And then there's no tenure. You're supposed to teach 5 classes a semester, and I talked myself out of it. And, down the road, I just put my head down, kept working hard, doing the right things. And I did actually get a chance to do that job at A&T several years later. It was a learning experience, but yeah, needless to say, A, young people, when you apply for a job, don't tell everybody you're applying. B, when you're doing the application process for your job, um, try to present the most positive face that you can, um, or even more positive than that. Don't say what you're thinking, but be very positive, very upbeat, and talk to people that you respect. One of the people told me not to take it. He's a university at an SEC school, so I respected him a lot. He's a former teacher, but yeah, try not to talk to people that have no idea what you do or what you're trying.
Thank you for
Okay.
sharing, Ken. I think I saw Marquis Davis's hand up as well. And please forgive me if I mispronounced your name.
No, that's fine. It's Marquise. You
Marquise.
had everything else but the S. I
I'm sorry.
appreciate you. No, you're
Apologies.
good. You're good. So I had an opportunity that came by. I'm still mulling over it. Y'all actually helped remind me of it. But it was something that seemed minuscule, but it's big because at this point in my life, I'm a database developer by profession. But I'm exploring different interests of mine. And we recently had a company outing at Sur La Table. It's like a cooking like a cooking teaching class type of thing. So you go there, you learn how to cook a meal, you get to eat the food and everything. And I've always been interested in like cooking and wanting to be a chef, food. I love food. And so I talked to the people there and they were like, yeah. Well, I talked to them about an opportunity to work with them, to learn the trade and get experience in the kitchen and things like that, and teaching, because teaching is something that I enjoy as well. So it's all packaged into one thing at this one place. And I kept on, I talked to them. They said they have openings to just apply. And I kept saying, like, it's like 12 bucks an hour. My scheduling is probably going to interfere with everything. I know it's part time, but yeah, I just used a whole bunch of excuses to not actually, explore that opportunity that I feel like I would actually enjoy. So I just wanted to share that with y'all.
Thank you so much, Marquise, for sharing that with us. Dr. Tony has made me aware there are other people that are in the chat. I see another hand, but so that we can respect the time, I'm going to ask us to hold any other examples we have of the icebreaker. I'm going to ask you to hold those until we get to the end so that we can make sure that we can continue to do the other interactive pieces that are integrated into this conversation this evening. So with that being said, your career journey. Your career journey is all rooted in your strategy will only go as far as what you believe about yourself. Now, sometimes we can have ideas about ourselves that aren't true, and sometimes it's in the negative, and sometimes it's in the affirmative, but they still may not be true. At the end of the day, the goal is to build the map using a mirror, but understanding what is at the root of all of it. I got to believe in this very technical space of engineers and or computer scientists or STEM related professionals that many, if not all of us, have done some kind of root cause analysis on some product, some organization, something. And so I wanted our conversation to be grounded in things that we understand. I am not very squishy or woo-woo. And so I understand that because of how many or most of us are trained, that we lead with logic first. And so I wanted everything that I shared with us tonight to be grounded in a form of logic, but I'm taking some what we like to call soft things or soft skills. I actually don't use that terminology generally. I use the terminology of professional or human skills because I don't believe they're soft skills, because the things that we identify as soft skills are actually much more prevalent and everybody needs them more than any of our technical skills, technical being whatever it is that you do. That's what makes it technical for you. The anchoring tonight is out of the abundance of the heart, so the mouth speaketh. Can I get anybody hands raised that believe that understand that may know where that comes from? Thank you, Dr. Tony. I could clearly see you, Marquise, Darius. I don't know why I want to drop your S, man. I apologize. Uh, with that being said, we're going to talk about what goes in the mapping, what the mirror requires of us, and where the root of all of this begins. So I am going to share my journey. It's not going to make sense to anybody but me and God, probably. No, there was no plan. For me, the things that I have done and the opportunities that I've taken professionally, what I've found is there's a common theme that runs through it all. But it wasn't because I had a master plan. Now, as I am a late career professional, I'm no longer early career and on the backside of middle career. I am at the end. I'm in late career. And as I look at late career and I think about the last legs of this journey, I've probably been thinking about it more strategically now than I ever have in my entire life. My very first professional role out of college was working for the state of South Carolina as an environmental engineer. I get a call from, some of you may know this person, Dr. Stephanie Adams, who at the time was serving as the Minority Engineering Program Administrator at North Carolina State. Well, as I was wrapping up Clemson, or toward the end of the engineering degree, we had an MEP office there, which was called PEER, Program for Engineering Enrichment and Retention. Well, all of these places are under attack now, but they were what sustained many of us that attended PWIs. I think Ken went to Georgia Tech. They had the OMED office there. If you're a Virginia Tech person, eventually they got the SEED office. So I thought that at the end of a professional career working as an engineer in corporate America, that I would do that work later. I get a call from Stephanie after having had a conversation with her maybe a few months earlier. And she said, hey, what do you think about being an assistant director of the MEP program? I said, I find that very interesting. I thought I would do it on the backside of an engineering career. However, if the opportunity presents itself, I'm open. So I interviewed, lo and behold, I got the job. Now, didn't know she was going to leave me in less than 6 months and go work on her PhD, but she did nonetheless. And I did the role for 4.5 years until some things changed, not because I didn't love the work, but you know how they always say it's not the work that makes people leave, it's usually the people. Well, I made a decision to leave because of some of the people that were in the space. Now, there have been times when I'd go, oh man, I should have never left that role because I loved the work. I loved being at NC State. However, as I look back over my life, I understand that every next thing that I did has informed where I am today. And there are no regrets. There were no mistakes. It was just my path. I believe that you should always be open to the opportunity, be open to opportunities. Don't ever say, I don't want to do so and so. I would never move such and such. I believe that we should always be open to listening to the possibilities of what could be, because the reality is our steps are ordered. And even though we think we order them, we just get to plan out and execute some of the pieces. And there could be times where the next thing is not anything that you could have envisioned, but if you are open to listen to or explore possibilities, then you can end up doing some incredible things that you never envisioned. So I left doing a job that I really loved, and I went as a co-op student and converted very quickly to a full-time employee at IBM, which was a great experience. And I stayed there for almost a decade, met some wonderful people. However, my division got sold to another company, and within a year, they did layoffs. So I ended up in that layoff, or as a product of that reduction in forces. Shortly after, found out that I had breast cancer. Went through that process. Well, not knowing that we were all getting ready to go through the 2008 crash. So when I was looking to then try to pivot back into corporate America, nothing seemed to work. Nothing seemed to happen like I thought it would. So I said, well, you know what, Lord? If I can't do nothing else, I ought to be able to teach some math. And if I cannot go teach middle school math after all of the math classes I've had to take, either that were called math classes or were called engineering classes, then I should never tell anybody I was an engineer. So I spent right around a decade in public schools, teaching middle school math, some high school math, became an intervention coordinator, always looking through the lens of being an engineer, not really understanding a lot of the adults in the space with me because they didn't use the same level of logic quite often. They were leading with their feelings, and I don't understand that. However, again, when I look back over my life, what that piece did was then, after having worked at the university and then going to corporate America, going to the K-12 space, it helped me to begin, like Tony talked about, all the things that are in my head. It helped me to begin to fine tune all of the things that people who have to serve young people or early career professionals, all of the things that we really don't know that happen, all of the things that people really don't know that try to help young people, but they're not very helpful. That means parents, that means quite often the counselors at school, because the reality is the average counselor that gets trained and even works with your young people on their applications and applying for school, they've only taken maybe one class in their academic curriculum that was focused on career anything. So unless they've done something else, quite often the advice that is given to our young people is incredibly flawed, if they get any at all. So on my journey, I've gotten another piece. I've spent a tremendous amount of time around young people, not being a young person anymore. And it gives me some clarity on a lot of things that I thought I knew but it was just based on my own personal experience. Now I have information. Now I have data points about why a lot of stuff just does not work the way it should when we're on this journey to try to go get careers. Then I go back to higher ed. I'm much more informed. I was in the college the first time. I'm in a department the second time around. First time around at NC State, I was serving underrepresented Hispanic, African American, Black, and American Indian or indigenous students. That was the population I served. When I come back to the university, I am serving everybody. And then I find out a lot of the assumptions that we have about what the white kids know and what their parents are able to help them do, a lot of it's wrong. It's erroneous. They walk in just as blindly as we are. And sometimes their parents actually have the same kinds of degrees that we do. They have engineering degrees. But along the way, one of the things that became incredibly obvious was school changes about every 10 years. So the whole process of what it takes to get into college, the competition, all of the things, if you've been out of school 20 years, what you experience is not going to be very helpful in a lot of ways to other people because it looks so incredibly different. So that was the lesson I learned when I went back to the university. Next step was I left the university again after doing it for about 4 years and then worked in a nonprofit using everything that I've learned on all the journey and helping underrepresented first generation low income students plot and devise strategy for getting opportunities for internships, co-ops, and full-time jobs. Did that for a couple of years, and then I had the opportunity to first come to Snyder and serve as a development program manager and with a little small piece of onboarding, which has now become completely onboarding and none of the program management. So that is my journey. I know none of it seems like it necessarily makes sense or fits, but because of how my mind works, it has all allowed me to become a subject matter expert in a lot of things that have intersectionality in a lot of spaces, but it all really is rooted in how do we help people map out the journey. Tonight, I'm going to spend more time about what informs what we are using to map out the journey. So that's my story. Strategy is a map and not a script. Remember, I said mine doesn't look and make sense to anybody, probably because it seems like it's not connected. But for me, it has been. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Clifton Strengths, but my top 5 are connectedness, learner, command, ideation, and maximizer. And if you know anything about Clifton Strengths and then you look at the 5 that I have, all of it is a perfect storm and collision for being and doing the things that I do. So how many of us are familiar with the SWOT analysis? Just kind of throw your hand up, whether your virtual hand. Yeah, use your virtual hands because I can't see your real hands because, I'm presenting. Well, Most of the time we're doing a SWOT, just like we talked about root cause analysis, we're doing it on a product or we're doing it on an organization. Well, tonight the work is to get you to think about, what does your own personal SWOT look like? What are your strengths? What do you do exceptionally well and can prove it, not just claim it? I really want us to think about that, because one of the things and the struggles that I see with early career professionals, but I think professionals in general, when I began to interview candidates for the program that I had as program manager, what I found is people they just are not really good at articulating, translating what they philosophically believe or what they think people want to hear. They do not translate that into skills or experiences in interviews, because nobody, I think, has taught them or spent time with them saying, hey, you need to be able to think through this. You need to be able to articulate it. And nobody's giving them best practices for how to get good at it. The credentials open the doors, hopefully, probably, but current day especially, demonstrated impact is what causes you to sustain and grow your career. Nobody cares about all of the comma dot dot, as one of my friends calls it. Nobody cares about all the certificates you have if you cannot articulate what that means. Nobody cares about the degree. How many times do they ask you what your degree is or your GPA, what your GPA is after you get in the door? You don't usually have conversations. Folks want to know, what can you apply? What impact have you had? A few different times I've talked to Stephanie and I've talked to Tony about the fact that my frustration level, when I have young people that I've either mentored or that are a part of my life, and they start talking to me about going to get another degree. For what? Can you explain why? Other than, okay, if your company's paying for it and it's not going to really cost you anything, okay, do you think it's going to help you move? What are you using it for? I believe that we go get additional degrees either to close a gap or to become stronger at the things that we're exceptionally competent at. But if you cannot explain why you're going to get the additional credential or degree, I think that is misguided energy. Now, in this presentation, you're going to continue to see a communal layer that is shared. And that communal layer is connected to what is the third pillar of the NSBE mission, which is to positively impact the community. Because even with all of this lovely career stuff and journey that we're on, ultimately, especially for this body and community, it really is not just about us. I know that we are in a space where everybody thinks, well, I'm going to get mine, go get your bag. Everybody's having a heart attack about the NAACP talking to the young people saying, hey, use your capital, use your leverage in these southern states that want to gerrymander any voice that your folks and you might have away. Everybody's like, oh, you're asking them to do too much. They're too young. You want them to sacrifice their bag. Guys, if everybody else they're related to is going to have their hands out because they don't have rights, they don't have resources, and there's enough of that already happens when we have people that can represent us, how bad do they think it will become? Well, we have to retool. Don't have to. Let me rephrase. I believe it is in our best interest to retool this individualistic, capitalistic mindset that we have, even when we talk about our career. It's not just for us. Your career is not just your story. It becomes evidence of what other people believe is possible. I've had students, I've had people that met me when they were 18 and they said that you challenged my beliefs about what I even believed could be possible. Your questions helped me to think more broadly about who I could be, what I could do, what I should do, simply because of the things and ways in which I challenge them. I gave them the ability to see opportunities in spaces that they would have never known anything about because they just hadn't lived long enough or didn't have enough experiences. I want us to think about the weaknesses that show up are those things that we can't articulate. And even if you're really good at a thing, if you can't articulate it, it's a gap because you're missing language or you are missing deep intellectual wrestling with a particular thing if you can't articulate what you do incredibly well. Credentials are great, but they become a threat to you if you cannot demonstrate the impact of that credential. If you are leaning on the credential by itself and not the impact that it has allowed you to produce, or if you got the credential and you produce great impact but cannot communicate it, that becomes a threat to your ability to advance and grow in the career strategy that you have for yourself. I want you to think about your ability to articulate your value, not with titles, because we get caught up in titles. I tell people, as long as they pay me adequately so I can do the things that I want to do for myself and the community and the people that matter to me, I don't care if they call me janitor. Call me whatever you'd like to. I understand who I am. If I needed to explain to somebody, I think anybody who knows me would understand that or agree with the fact that I am a transformational, difference-making, relationship-centered, authentically disruptive individual. Now, you can do with that whatever you'd like, but if you know me, you know that's who I am. Now, I'm going to ask you all to do some more thinking. I'm going to ask you to do this honesty inventory. It's 3 questions. We're going to take again about another 90 seconds. So I want you to think. You don't have to do all 3 of them tonight, but I want you to pick one of them. And I'm going to ask for 3 volunteers to give me 90-second answers or so. So you're going to have to keep it tight. But I'm going to give you 90 seconds. Pick one. Take a picture of the screen so you can go do your honesty inventory on the rest of it later. Time starts now. And as people finish, you can go ahead and raise your hand. That way we have an idea of where we are. So Tony, based on how many people we have, if you will monitor how many people's hands are up, we may be able to finish up faster than the 90 seconds.
I see one hand at the moment.
I do too.
You want me to talk or?
No, not yet. Whoever that was.
Okay.
Motorola, what is your name?
Yeah, please change your name, Motorola Moto G. Please edit your name, rename yourself so we know who you are. Got about 30 seconds left, guys.
If we don't get a second hand, I can share as well.
Okay. All right. Motorola, are you gonna change your name so we can quit calling you Motorola? You're on mute if you're trying to talk. Did you decide you didn't want to talk to us, Motorola?
Maybe that is a cell phone. Sometimes people aren't able to unmute themselves. Maybe you lost them.
No, I still see him at the bottom.
Okay.
All right. Is there anybody else who is willing to answer one of the questions from the honesty inventory?
There we go.
All right. Motorola, can you tell us who you are?
My name is John Watson.
Okay, John Watson. And which question are you answering for us from the honesty inventory? 1, 2, or 3?
Number 1,
Okay. Remember, you got 90 seconds. Let's go.
What impact have you created that is original? I think that's what you're trying to state here. Um, I'm an electronics engineer, and for the last 10 years, I've been supporting supply chain management, helping companies run. So, what I've done particularly is the idea of how to arrange your goals smartly, and being impactful with how problems are solved in a timely manner and creatively, and how that impacts the bottom line of how products get out the door, being it monetarily effective, being it being it in a timely manner, and you know a lot of people don't see that, how to link supply chain management and being on the equipment maintenance engineering side. How does it get into the idea of marketing?
Okay. Thank you. Repeat your name for me again.
John Watson.
John Watson, thank you so much for sharing. Is there anybody else that wants to share on the honesty inventory?
Marquise to us.
Let's go, Marquise. You got 90 seconds.
Hey, I was actually going to ask if you could speak to like people not really knowing how to answer these questions. Because for me, I could not come up with I don't know, I couldn't think of anything for these three. And I wanted to know like how you could or how you would approach that. I guess trying to figure out and answer these questions.
Okay. Tony, you want to give that a stab since they've been listening to Darius might have an answer for you, or either he wants to share his own that might help you be able to frame your own answer. Not sure which approach Darius is going to take, but Darius, you got the floor. 90 seconds.
Latasha's on there too. Her hand is
Hi,
also.
can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm walking outside. Yeah, I think that was a good point that Marquise brought up. It's hard. I think it's hard to say why we're unique, and I think a lot of us as Black people deal with imposter syndrome. But I think when I was thinking of I really was thinking of question one. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating the answer. But
Well,
as
I hope your answer is not the same as John Watson's. Otherwise, and neither one of y'all are
no,
creative.
I'm answering. No. I'm just answering the same question. For those who don't know, my name is Darius Carter. I'm an assistant professor at North Carolina State, and part of the job is education, teaching college classes. And I think what makes me unique is just my identity and my experiences. So just being a Black man in America, like I can relate to the students in a way that my colleagues can't. And so I think that that is a benefit and makes me distinct when it comes to educating my students. So that's how I would answer question one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Darius Carter. Do you remember sitting beside me about a month ago?
Yes, ma'am. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. All right, and we're gonna let Latasha speak, and we're gonna see if she helps answer Marquise's question. And if not, then I'm gonna take a stab at it, and then we're gonna move on. Go ahead, Latasha.
Okay, we're still on number one, right?
No. I never asked everybody to focus on number one. I said everybody pick one of them.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go with number one. So right now I'm environmental justice associate. I was a former researcher with Department of Energy, and I'm proud of that transition because I always wanted to move towards sustainable energy versus fossil energy. And I would say the impact that I have is that number one, I'm able to advocate stronger for environmental causes because I did research on coal gasification and I know like the limits in terms of clean coal technology. And also, I would say I've had the foresight in terms of what's needed to make that transition towards renewable energy, like everything from like ramping up and ramping down of turbines, energy storage. And I think now with the fight of data centers, as well as the recent electric hikes, I'm primed to provide a perspective to other advocates in that area.
Thank you so much, Latasha. So Marquise, I think the way Latasha answered the question um, gives you some framing. I will take it a little deeper, and it's really going to flow into my next slide. So I'm just going to go ahead into the next slide. Everybody take a picture, Marquise, especially you, take a picture of this slide so that you can sit with this, and you can always reach back out to me or Dr. Tony or other people if you want to do some thought partnering around how to better answer this question. I'm going to move to this next slide, and it is going to help me frame my answer for you. If anybody was to ask, if I was answering number one, what is my differentiator? What makes me different? So I've been a unicorn my entire life. So probably a lot of people say, Lord, she came here different. However, I'm incredibly comfortable with me. I'm incredibly comfortable with being me, using my voice and articulating my vision. I think that makes me very different than the average person, Marquise, because most of us are not comfortable with our voice. Most of us don't know what our voice is. Um, and if we do, many people have come to being able to use their voice much later in life. I was actually reared in an environment, Southern Black, very strict parents. However, I was not reared in a space where it says be seen and not heard. I was not reared in a space where it's like children should know their place. We were challenged in the house that I grew up in to use our voices and our minds from the time we had words and could use them. So my inability to show up as my unauthentic self is not a thing. I don't know how to do that. Now that has come at a cost. Or where you see on this slide where it talks about authenticity and belonging are not opposites, but real belonging it cannot require self-erasure. The reality is my differentiator also is probably, if I'm doing my SWOT, the fact that I'm unwilling to not be who I am and show up in spaces as my full authentic self comes at a cost. But it doesn't come at my cost of self-erasure. It comes at the cost of not being able to do some of the things that I would like to be able to do, or I knew I was capable and competent to do. But because my presence aggravates other people's demons, because my presence requires people to hold up mirrors, because I'm unapologetically myself. I am unapologetically a Black woman. I am unapologetically will say that I wouldn't come back as anything else. I wouldn't come back as a man, and I wouldn't come back as somebody in another ethnicity. I would come back as a Black woman every time. I would come in this earth suit because I understand the power of it and I'm not afraid of it. So my ability to articulate that and my willingness to articulate that, Marquise, differentiates me. My ability and willingness to challenge people in their beliefs about whatever it is. You want to debate? I got it. Pick something. It can be sports, it can be politics, it can be history, it can be anything. I am comfortable using my voice and my skill set to have a conversation about anything. Most people are not that comfortable with themselves. Most people would not be able to articulate that that is one of the things that differentiates them from other people. Was that helpful, Marquise? Okay, I'm gonna move on because okay, thank you. Because I was like,
He gave
Marquise,
a thumbs up.
I said, yeah, I see the thumb
And
now.
I wanted to let you know that you do have Lukman Ajala. His hand's been up for a minute. I don't know if you have time to have for them to chime in, but just
Okay,
wanted to let you know.
yeah, we gonna move through and we gonna hold whatever Lukeman
Okay.
has until the end. All right. So again, we talked about the hidden cost of what you pay if you are like me. And I'm not telling anybody to be like me because again, I understand the cost of showing up fully authentic in this earth suit, how it aggravates and disrupts people's spirits because some people would identify it as arrogance. I'm just incredibly confident in who I am. And there are only a few spaces where I can honestly say I am not as confident, but in general, what you see is what you get. And it's not performative. This is who I am. Anybody who knows me that's in this space will tell you, you get the same chick wherever we are. Now, might I clean up the language a little bit? Might I work to take some of the Southern out, depending upon the space? Uh, might I curse less, depending upon the space? I might do all of those things, but that is not me becoming inauthentic. That is just me respecting the space. However, I believe that a lot of other people pay a much higher cost when they shrink to fit spaces because they feel like they don't belong. I have a general philosophy. I belong wherever I am. I may not be appreciated, I might not be accepted, and some people might not be willing to tolerate me, but it's not because I don't belong. If I'm in the space is for me, just like it is for anybody else. On the career journey, we've got to figure out how much are we willing to contort ourselves to get the things we think we deserve or want. And was it really worth that? When we go back to positively impacting the community, the room does not need your credential. The room does not just need your credentials. It needs your perspective. It needs your voice. It needs your full presence. Belonging directly shapes your confidence, your leadership presence, and sustainable performance. If you feel like you don't belong, people can't see you as an individual that belongs. Now, there's some of them that don't want to see it, but if you stand 10 toes down in who you are and what it is you bring to the space, it's hard to deny that you belong, even if they really want to. On this career journey, you got to decide how much permission are you willing to ask for to be yourself. All right. Next activity. Where have you been performing instead of contributing? Now, some of you may actually want to come off mic and share this. Some of you may feel more comfortable typing your response in the chat. Either one works for me. Was it Lukeman? Who was the person that wanted to talk? If they want to contribute on this one, we're more than happy to let you lift your voice here in this space. But there are two pieces here. Describe a moment when showing up as your full self changed the outcome for you or for someone watching you. And I can offer an example if nobody else has any they want to share. And the reflection point I would ask you to take is, what would change about how you show up tomorrow if you fully believed you belonged in every room in which you walk?
Got
All
a
right.
hand over here,
I
Robert.
see Robert Weinkoff. Robert Weinkoff, what have you to contribute to the conversation this evening?
Hello, my name is Robert Weinkoff. I am an industrial engineer at NC State University, currently in my senior year. I'm answering the reflect question of what would change about you if you showed up tomorrow and fully believed you belonged in every room in which you would walk into. First things first, I would believe that as you can hear now, my the way my voice is speaking, I would be way more confident how I speak. I would put more ideas into the front lines about what I thought was right from wrong. I feel like my ability to understand the positive and negative of ideas quickly is a distinction that I have. It's something that I've always developed with our think and do motto. It's just I always like to think but never do. So if that do part does come out, I know I'm gonna be a huge problem in a good way.
Love it. Anybody else want to contribute to this interactive session, interactive component?
Strategist Wendy, I'm going to chime in. Um, yes, I can piggyback off of what Robert said. There have been some times where I say I'm going to pick and choose when I'm going to do that because I don't want to, I guess I should say, um, I'll be selective because I want to make sure it's going to be of value when I go there. And there have been some times where I'm like, I'm just going to perform here because I've assessed that it's not going that far anyway. Like this is not the place where I can make them, I can gain the most from being fully who I want to be. But there have been some times where I was able to do that and it was embraced and appreciated, and it paid bigger dividends for me in opportunity. So I'm going to assess when I do it and when I don't. And it's unfortunate that, we have to do that. There's some times where I'm going to decide to just be on the performance side and just go with the flow because I don't see where the dividends are going to pay and be appreciated. I just don't feel like fighting the battle. But it's gonna be good trouble. Sometimes I'll make good trouble. And sometimes I'm just going to choose to not make good trouble and just ride it out and observe.
So I have, as I've aged, as I've become more mature, I have gotten to a place of what's the ROI of me giving my full self in a way that I think there's going to be some good
Embrace.
return.
Mm-hmm.
If I it's not worth it. I can still be my authentic self, and my authentic self just doesn't give you a whole lot because you don't value the fullness of me.
Yep.
Then you're just going to get enough of me. Um, what I can do is give an example since we all been talking about, how we made decisions to pull back or have not fully grown into ourselves to feel comfortable enough to do it. In the last organization I worked for, when it was time for me to leave, in the goodbye ceremony or the goodbye session that the ERN had for me, I had the Black ERN, excuse me, because there were several that of which I was a part of. There were two young ladies, and they talked about, and they were much younger and early in their careers, and they shared with me, or they shared with the room, that watching me show up as my full authentic self help them to realize that it was possible and help them to understand that you could do it and still be professional and not intentionally offensive, and that it made a difference. And I show up and do what I think is right. I show up in the intent is to be in good trouble, but I don't always just get in good trouble. Sometimes there's other trouble too. However, all of the battles that I've been willing to fight or the things that I've been willing to stand on have come from what I morally believe is right. And so it touched my heart to hear young Black women say to me, watching you show up and share the things that you believe and fight for the things that you thought mattered, help me see that you can do it and still be satisfied with yourself and the outcomes professionally, made me a little teary. My eyes got a little misty. They were
Mm-hmm.
sweating a little bit because I wasn't doing it for that. But then it made me or helped me to realize that when you are doing what it is you do, somebody
Mm-hmm.
is watching you, and it informs how they make decisions about how and what they will do. Oh, I'm
That's good.
sorry. I hope
No, you good.
everybody took a picture of that last screen for themselves for reflection for the future. Here's
Can
the
you go
last
back?
thing.
Can you go back, Miss Wendy?
Yes, I'll go
All
back.
right.
Snap it quickly.
All right. And I will say we are a little over, but this is good. This is good food. This is good food for the soul. If you're able to stay, feel free to do so.
We're going to try to get it finished in the next 5 minutes or so. All right. Know that all of what you're doing, whatever's informing your career strategy and your desires for it, however you show up. All of that is rooted in what's in your heart. Why you want to do the things you say you want to do from a career perspective is about your why. Is because you want to make money so that you can live and go and do whatever it is you want to do? Is it so that you can make money and be able to help family in a way that is substantive? Is it because you want to make money so that it allows you to impact what's what I'm looking for, impact the issues of your heart that matter to you? Do you want to just be able to take care of your family? What's at the root of why you do what you do? Why is your career strategy and map, or your ideas and thoughts about what it should be? What's the why that's feeding that? Know that it all comes from your heart. And if your heart is the source, it is going to ultimately determine the output. If you show up and do stuff you really don't like, you probably don't do it that well. That's my belief. Might not be so. Might not work that way in your world. But you got to have the honesty inventory with yourself to decide if it does. Your patterns reveal what you believe. Some of us shrink before people can reject us. Some of us tell ourselves, oh, I can't do that, or I'm too young to do that, or I'm too this to do that. Some of us underestimate our disruptive behaviors and personalities. We underestimate the impact that it actually is having. Even when we're thinking it's offering one particular type of impact, you hear a story and you realize, oh, I wasn't just impacting the thing that I was trying to impact, but I was also impacting the environment. Some professionals are not limited by their capability. They are limited about what they believe they have accepted about themselves. If you speak from a fixed mindset, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with Carol Dweck's book called Mindset, but you have a fixed mindset, you just believe particular things and you don't think things can change. If you believe this is your path and this is your journey, even when somebody presents a great opportunity, well, that wasn't on your board. That wasn't on your script of how your career was going to go. And so you can't grow into that thing that was really going to catapult you in the direction you really could have excelled, because you were fixed on the script of your career journey, the script of your career trajectory. You were stuck because your mindset was fixed and you were unwilling to think about how you could grow, because it wasn't growing you in the direction you wanted to grow. The goal is not arrogance, but be confident, be clear, and rooted in growth, self-awareness, and your truth. Honesty inventory. That's going to help you define your truth. It's going to help you think about, why do I really want to do these things? Is it just so that I can live a life and go on vacations and drive a car that costs way too much? And everybody gets to decide what way too much is for them. But what's in your heart is really the root of everything. It drives it all. And so when you're clear about who you are, don't allow people to call you intimidating. I will say in the last 5 years, maybe longer than that, I found the language to be able to tell people, because you're intimidated has nothing to do with me being intimidating. Something about my confidence aggravates your demons. It stirs up things in you that you don't like. Has nothing to do with me. Intimidation is something that creates fear. And if I'm not threatening to do anything to you bodily, then I don't understand why anybody would be afraid. Because at the end of the day, you're making choices to believe what you believe, but it has nothing to do with me. It's about how you feel about yourself. Your career journey is rooted in what you feel about yourself. The heart leads, strategy follows the direction that your heart is leading. Going back to positively impacting the community, the beliefs you carry about yourself don't just shape your career. They shape what everyone watching you believes is possible for themselves. Last 3 questions. Pick one. Read them real quick. If anybody wants to chime in, since we're over time. What do you truly tell yourself about yourself? Of what do you actually believe yourself capable? Where did that belief come from? And does it still deserve to live there? Some of you were abused verbally by the community, by the kids you grew up with, by the people in your house. Some of you got abused once you got to the university. And so you formulated some things that are sitting in your heart that you believe about yourself because of what other people said about you. You allowed, for whatever reasons, other people to tell you about you. If you got some beliefs that came from other people and there's no data for it, you might want to reassess that. Anybody got any thoughts or ideas they want to contribute in the heart questions? Any hands? Are everybody ready to go?
I'm checking the chat right now. I do not, let me see, wait a minute. We may have.
Everybody take a picture of that. Everybody take a picture of the other homework.
You do
All
have one
right,
hand.
we're giving you 60 seconds, Doc. What you got?
Greetings. I just want to salute you for this excellent symposium. But when I'm listening to you talk, it reminds me of the movie Aquila and the Bee. And she talked about our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. So when I look at number one, what do you truly tell yourself? I truly tell myself that greater is he that's in me than he that is in the world. And the first person you have to check is the difference between confidence and conceit. Never allow anybody to call you conceited because you're confident in what God gave you to do. So I just want to thank you for your excellence. And I want to thank NSBE, RTP. And thank you very much. And that's it.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Hopefully everybody snapped a picture of this one. We're going to go to the last part. NSBE's mission is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. Well, we've excelled and succeeded from the perspective of we got grades. Some of them were great, some of them won't, but we were able to get across the line. Your honesty inventory and demonstrated impact serve both. Culturally responsible, however, means you map accounts for who you lift as you climb. I don't care how much the world tells us that this is an individual activity, this whole living. If God wanted you to live by, the creator or whatever it is you believe, if the intent was for you to do it by yourself, we'd all got our own planet. We'd all got our own universe. Since we all got to be here to do it together, I don't believe it's supposed to be as individualistic as we're approaching it current day. Or maybe as some people have always, or groups of people have always approached it. Culturally responsible. Showing up authentically is an act of representation. If we do the stuff to make ourselves feel like we are adjacent to certain groups more than we are to who we are actually embodying, I believe we do everybody, but especially the ancestors, a disservice. Your full self changes what the room believes is possible, positively impacting the community. Yeah. When you fully occupy your space, you expand what others believe is possible. All right, this is the last piece of homework. Nobody has to talk about this. Take a picture of it. This is what I'm asking you to do. If anything I said was of value to you tonight, I ask you to do this for yourselves. Do this SWOT over the course of June. Pick something each week. What can I prove to do exceptionally? What can I prove I do exceptionally well and not merely claim it? How do you demonstrate? I believe I can demonstrate day after day, moment after moment, that they're not people who do relationship cultivation and development and maintenance in the way that I do it. Two, where you weak at? What is the gap or the gaps? Just pick one because it's for the week. What is the gap about which I have been least honest with myself? What is it that you want people to believe you do well at the job, in your life, in your marriage, in school, that you know that that's the place where I'm the least confident? Where's that gap? What can you do for it not to continue to be a weakness? Opportunities. Where does my distinct value meet an unmet need right now? You get to define all of the pieces of that. And in the fourth week of June, am I leading with credentials or demonstrated impact? Do I just show up and talk about my comma dot dot? I got a master's in this and a PhD in that and an MBA in this. Okay, don't nobody care if you can't do nothing with it other than talk about it. That's my own personal opinion. You can feel however about it you want to.
Amen.
And what must I change? Your job is to now you can move differently because you got the tools to interrogate yourself around those things. We started with the map. We looked in the mirror. We dug at the root. Now you know all of this is grounded and rooted in how you see yourself and what you can do with it, how it impacts, because the heart leads and the strategy follows. What's in your heart drives your strategy, folks. That's all I got. Questions? Apologies for going long, but some of y'all caused it.
Awesome. Any questions for Miss Wendy Blue? I have so many names, Griot, whatever we want to call her, strategist. Questions, final thoughts. I'm not seeing any right now. Feel free to put them in the chat if she can't answer them tonight. We'll see, can we get her to answer them? But can we continue to do what you're doing? Show love, round of applause for this insight. This has been an excellent Juneteenth readiness meditation. I'll just put it like that. This is the way you go into June, ready for restoration, reflection, and remembrance, remembering where you're from and how to embrace yourself. I see a question from Robert.
So one quick question. I just wanted to take this into account because I've noticed it in a lot from my parents, but not only my parents, but older people as well. Why is it that it's harder to advocate yourself more than anything else? Like, why do people believe that the skills that they have does not qualify a position just because someone else got it before them or just because someone else got it a different way?
Can you ask that a different way, please, Robert?
Yeah. So what I'm asking is the main thing I believe that people don't do for themselves is advocate their potential. But I wanted to know is there a specific reason why that's a thing?
Why people don't do it?
Yes.
So may I ask you a question, Robert?
Yes.
What is your current age?
20.
20. Oh Lord, that means my baby's older than you. Jesus. So I'm Gen X. I'm the beginning of Gen X. That means that I was reared by people born in the silent generation. Some of my friends, their parents are actually baby boomers, but my parents are silent generation. They are both actually still living, 88 and 86. Oh, excuse me, almost 88 and 86. She is 86. He's almost 88. My father and I actually just recently had a conversation. So I told you, I don't know, have you been on the whole session, or did you join like later on after I started?
After you started.
Okay. So one of the things I articulated about my upbringing in my childhood is that I was reared in an environment that is pretty atypical for Southern, whether Southern white or Southern black, but definitely Southern black. I was reared in an environment where I wasn't told be seen and not heard. I wasn't told a child needs to stay in a child's place. I grew up in an environment in which it was demanded of us that we think. And it was demanded of us that we articulate our thoughts using words, not just our feelings or facial expressions. We were actually asked to communicate. One of the things my father would say to us when we were children was he would ask us if he was working on something or making a decision about something. He would ask us our opinion on that particular thing. And then he would say, now, it does not mean that I'm going to do with you all recommended, but the reality is you may have a better idea than I do. Well, and he and I talking about this, I think over Mother's Day. And believe it or not, I've often asked him about his approach to his child rearing with us, and it was a function of how my grandmother, who was born in 1914, reared him, and especially my uncle, because they were only 18 months apart. He said, now I need you to understand that the way I raised y'all could have got y'all killed as easily as it could have gotten us killed. Because the individuals who've colonized the United States of America are dangerous people. They still dangerous. They've been dangerous since they got to this, probably since they got to the planet, but definitely since they got to this continent. And so if you were reared by people definitely of the silent generation or baby boomer generation, of which you wouldn't have been, most likely you were reared by Gen Xers or millennials possibly, their reluctance to show what they can do is a function of being reared in Jim Crow, being showing off and being able to be competent in something and saying that you can do a thing quite often can get you killed. When people say, oh, Black folks ought to do such and such and such for themselves. Guess what? We've been doing for ourselves since the beginning of the time. But when what we're doing makes other communities uncomfortable, know that they do come and burn it down, and it doesn't matter what it is. So much of that not necessarily being willing to lean into their competence or be very vocal about their competence or demonstrative about their competence is a function of being reared in a space where showing off that you can do a thing could get you killed. Does that answer your question, Robert?
Yes, ma'am. And I believe that answered my question because for number one, that story seems true and it seems realistic. And I like realism, not delusion, because you cannot live in this world and believe delusion will save you. It cannot.
Any other questions?
I don't see any other ones at this moment. I think that is it. All right. If there's not any other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But please join me in showing some love in the chat. And also, Wendy, if you want to share LinkedIn or where people can connect with you, if they have further questions, feel free to do so. Just want to thank you for coming and sharing so transparently a reflective, I would say, an insightful review of self. And a lot of what you touched on will impact how people show up at work. And you may be co-signing on diminishing yourself and not even know it. And I was doing that at work and I did not even know that's what I was doing. Um, and eventually was able to recondition my thinking. So I just said that to say if you're having a hard time answering some of the questions on what differentiates me and how do I frame myself to that, you might be diminishing yourself and not even know that you're doing that. You may be subconsciously uh not you may have been conditioned and not know that you have been conditioned to think that way. And unfortunately it's rooted in our society. And I'm glad that Wendy has brought that to our attention because in today's times that we live in where DEI is a bad word and we have to we're quote unquote rolling back things, and we're here to say that's no, we don't need to roll those things back, and don't let your mind go into that space where you co-sign on doing it but not know that you're doing it. So thank you for giving us, like I said, the timely Juneteenth rejuvenation and giving us some homework to reflect on.
Live
All
your full
right.
lives, people as your full selves is what I would say. I'm too lazy to click off everything and go find my LinkedIn thing and post it. If you look for Wendy Coleman Blue, I'm not hard to find. I
Okay.
don't think there's another Wendy Coleman Blue. There might be some other Wendy Blues, some other Wendy Coleman, but I think I'm the only Wendy Coleman Blue out there on LinkedIn. I might not be, but I'm pretty sure my big old head pops up, so I'm not gonna be hard to find.